To serve and to protect, that is what the men and women in blue are trained to do. Under apartheid, they used repression and secrecy to brutalize the majority of the nation. Have they made the transition in the era of democracy? Today, are you confident that the South African police have your best interests at heart? Let's get started. Good evening and welcome to the Democracy Gauge. I'm Bongani Bingo. Listen, this is a show designed with you at the heart of it, to tell it like it is. It's your South Africa, it's your lived experience. So, do you feel safe in your home, in your car, at work, or even when you travel across the country on holiday, for example? Do you have faith in our police? Crime. You've either been affected directly or you certainly know somebody else who has. But what happens after a crime has been committed? Often the perpetrator is long gone by the time the police arrive at the scene. Then there's the paperwork. You report the crime, you get a case number. What happens next? Do these cases actually get solved? That brings us to our poll question this evening. Do the police respond to crime effectively? You'll choose from our standard three colors. Green is for yes, yellow maybe, red is for no. And you can go to our poll topic on sabcnews.com and answer our question on Facebook and Twitter, remembering to use the hashtag SABCDG25 and hashtag SABCNews. Incidentally, tonight's topic coincides with the South African Police Union's threat to embark on a national strike. They're accusing government of taking police for granted. All right, let's go live this evening to Pinetown in Durban, where we find our reporter Simpiwe Makanya. A very good evening, Simpiwe. You've been looking at this and you've got some people on the ground in Durban who want to respond.
Well, a very good evening to you, Bongani, as well as our viewers at home. Well, certainly, we are coming to you live from Pinetown, just west of Durban, about 16 kilometers away from Durban, to be exact. I can tell you that, Bongani, the issue of crime here is quite a serious issue. When you talk to people here, they will tell you that crime remains a very, very big problem for them. According to the recent stats issued by the Stats SA, the statistics indicate, Bongani, that this area in particular has a problem of issues such as car hijackings, issues of burglaries at homes, and home invasions in particular. But the people who know this area very well are residents of this area, and I'm going to be speaking to one of them at the moment. Ma'am, thank you very much, Slindile, for your time, and welcome to the program. Perhaps as a person who lives here, who knows this area, how would you define crime levels in this area?
The crime levels are very high, and I feel like every single time whenever we go out, we have to watch out, and we always have to call whoever to, for support or anything. Yeah.
But do you feel that police are doing enough, though, to curb this issue?
Well, I can say yes, they are doing very much, like so much work, but especially in the morning. In the morning, recently, we've been having some kind of evidence that at night there is something that happens. It's either rape or it's either car hijacks, anything that happens. Yeah, so yeah, especially in the morning, sometimes we do not feel safe because of the things that happen during the night or in the morning.
Personally, have you ever been a victim of crime?
No.
You have not?
Yes.
Hey, you want to say something?
Yes, I'd say, but one of our family friends have been a victim of crime, and it hasn't even swelled because it didn't happen like a long time ago. It's something that's recent, and thanks to the neighborhood watch who actually helped, because we did manage to get everything back.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was Sling Ngobo. She is a learner who stays here in Pinetown, explaining the situation of crime in the area. And I'm now joined by Mr. Mark Bashe, who is a member of a community watchdog. Mr. Bashe, thank you very much for your time. As a person who stays in this community, do you feel safe?
Look, I do feel safe, but to a certain extent. And I think for me, as a person who's also been a victim of crime, I've taken upon myself to join my neighborhood watch, which is the Berkshire Downs and Upper Lyndhurst, to make sure that I get rid of crime in my area.
Talk to us about the relationship between the community as well as police in the area. How is it? Do you feel that police are accessible when you report incidents of crime?
Yeah, since I've joined the neighborhood watch, definitely police have become accessible to us to a certain extent, and we do have high-level ranking police officers that are part of our neighborhood watch. They are part of our patrollers, including Metro Police as well. So everyone knows that crime hasn't got a color. It doesn't choose a color. It doesn't choose if whether you're a policeman or not. When these thieves and robberies happens, they go into your home. They don't know who you are. We've had an incident recently where 3 armed assailants walked into someone's house, not knowing that's a policeman, and unfortunately for them, it was fire against fire, because the policeman had to also look after himself.
Okay, Mr. Basha, what though do you think must be done now going forward to ensure that levels of crime are dealt with in this area?
Look, we can't always just leave it to the police. As communities, we must also stand up, and we must also play our role. What's more important is that you have to be part of a neighborhood watch. You have to know your neighbor, and you have to patrol. Know who your neighbor is. Know that if there's a car that's in your own neighborhood that you don't recognize, that's not part of your neighbors, you must be able to tell your neighborhood watch to say, guys, there's a particular vehicle, here's the registration number, is it visiting anyone? And you might find someone say, actually, that vehicle was seen at another neighborhood and it was involved in a crime. So we're able to deter that by doing that. And because of patrolling at night, we make sure that we're visible every single day, so that the crime can be kept away from our neighborhood. And we promote the other neighbors or the other neighborhoods to also make sure that they also stand up and patrol.
Mr. Basha, thank you very much. Unfortunately, that's all we have. So that's all the time we have for this particular crossing. But I can tell you that the word that you alluded to when you said the issue it must involve community visibility is what is very important when dealing with the incidence of crime in any community. It's back to you, Bongani, in studio.
Thank you, Simpiwe. Vigilance, visibility, those are the key words. We'll keep, of course, taking more of your responses. Have you been a victim of crime? And importantly, did you get assistance? Well, we are joined now by Gusha Ngantweni, who is, of course, the lead editor of an upcoming publication, Crime Prevention and Policing. He is also a senior lecturer at the University of South Africa. Very good evening to you. Welcome to the Democracy Gauge.
Thank you so much, Roman.
In my introduction, I said that under apartheid, everyone was quite clear what the role of the police was in fighting to prop up the system. Have they made the transition? We call them a service, but are they?
Just a point of correction, I was a senior lecturer, not anymore. The police have made progress. They have transformed in large parts. Remember, under apartheid, they were truly, or rather as a country, we truly lived in a police state where there was criminalization of the black majority and all of that. And there were unprecedented levels of violence coming from the police to a particular section of the society. I think they've made progress. It's been a rough ride because our crime levels in South Africa are pretty abnormal.
Exactly. I think for most people watching us, they would say crime is a problem wherever you go in this country. It affects the working class, it affects the middle class, it cuts across racial lines. Why do we have, as you say, abnormal levels?
The problem we make in our society is to think that we can solve our crime problem from inside a police van, from inside police cells, from inside the cells of correctional services. That is not where it starts. Let me just make an example. We had an academic conference and we brought up some inmates from correctional services. And there was this young man in his 20s and he was narrating the story of how he was on drugs and hustling his parents for money. and they didn't have the money. So he killed both of them with a gun there and there. So there was a point where he got to be in possession of that firearm. There was a point where he was on drugs and was not finding help. He couldn't help himself. The family couldn't help him. The community couldn't help him. So that is where we have to think about solving our problem, that it is beyond just the police, as Mr. Basha was saying.
I would accept that all of us have a role to play here, but part of the frustration is that we don't even get to a point where we can set up systems to assist the police. Surely, if there is an incident, I should expect some kind of resolution. Quite often that doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's true. Our police are overwhelmed. That's the truth. And the point we should also make correctly is the one you're making, that we don't have a sufficient civil society-based resource mobilization for the police. We need actually a very large volunteer program for community patrollers because our crime problem is abnormal. And in order to understand...
Do we need more officers, maybe?
Having more officers is not going to help. You would know that the number of young people, for example, who are not in employment, who are not in education, and who are not in school is very high. And generally, something like about 6 of our provinces have expanded unemployment levels of 40 or higher a lot of the time. So if we don't solve those problems, we are never going to solve our crime problem. We need to invest more in our basic education, in our higher education and training, as well as in our sports and in our culture, so that young people are engaged.
You bring up an interesting dimension. It's easy enough to blame the police, but what do we do as communities, particularly where crime happens, where people buy, for example, the proceeds of crime? Thank you very much for your perspective and your insight this evening. Now, of course, back to you at home. Our poll question this evening is, do police respond to crime effectively? You can choose from our 3 colors. Green is for yes, yellow for maybe, red for no. And you can go to our poll topic on sabcnews.com. Answer our question on Facebook and Twitter, remembering to use the hashtag SABCDG25 and hashtag SABC News. We'll share some of your thoughts after this break.
We've heard it many times from female entrepreneurs that they aren't taken seriously, and Future Females is a worldwide network of women.
So we're creating a platform where these women come and they collaborate and they meet each other.
Have the Civil Aviation Authority announced when they'll be making some announcement with regard to findings?
The Chief Executive Officer of Ethiopian Airlines, he said they do not even know the magnitude of the situation.
Bring us up to speed with regard to the latest developments.
We now know there was a football official, there was a journalist, there were university professors.
Koko said his hands are clean and his detractors have ulterior motives.
South Africans have been sold a dummy that Machela Koko had conflict of interest.
Our election website here on SABC is now live.
Tandeka, her weird family and cray-cray friends bring you another cheeky season.
Everything new, brand new. Well.
Into zamgela.
Tandeka bengikhuluma nomaziputhe efonini uthi ucela space bag. Ithembe mem, ha ke tshepe motho. Awe, nkampa ka tshepa lejwe. Yini? Siza ukufunda la esikoleni, are you aware?
Mugele. Catch Tandeka's Diary Mondays at 7:30 only on SABC1 Mzansi for sure.
We are at the forefront of Africa's tech discussion.
We're already planning for the 5G spectrum to be licensed by 2020.
In Mauritius, for fiber migration, we had a strategy.
On network, we have gadgets, robots, and more.
We focus on investing in entrepreneurs and technology in emerging markets.
There's technology and social media news on Network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. and every Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
Welcome back. You're watching the Democracy Gauge. We're going to go straight to Twitter now and Facebook to get some of your perspectives. Let's start with Facebook and see what the picture there is looking like. Amos says criminals got more power than cops, he says. Moroka says immediate crime not effectively. Not only media attracted crime, sometimes they do, so petty crimes absolutely no. Silwane says they're too slow to respond to crime, too fast to respond to domestic violence. I think many people, particularly victims of domestic violence, might disagree with that perspective. Let's see what the picture looks like on Twitter. The Man says let's leave the police alone and go to the union buildings, strike and demand they bring back the death penalty. Enough is enough. How many of us should die before they listen? It's an interesting perspective about the death penalty. There are those who say that being caught is the biggest disincentive to criminals. But what's your thought? Msitles says, never. I reported a housebreaking and they asked me over the phone what was stolen. And do I need to claim for insurance so they can give me a case number? I then asked when they are coming to check the place and they told me they are changing shifts and all the vans are out. I'm afraid that's an all too common perception. Makums says, how can they possibly effectively report when the state vehicles are parked in taverns, if not in some malls, and they're doing their home groceries, as if that is not all, or picking up their children from school, or too busy fighting who should be permanently assigned to a vehicle. All right, doesn't seem to be a lot of trust there. Those are the views expressed so far on social media. We'll take more of yours after this. Right, here we are then. We want the voice of the people, and this evening's edition of The People's View also comes to you from Pinetown in KZN, and for that we return back to Simpiwe Makanya. Simpiwe, let's get some more views from where you are.
Well, a very good afternoon again to you, Bongani. I can certainly tell you that it's all about getting the views of the ordinary people who are affected by this issue of crime on a daily basis. And I'm now joined by Mr. Andreas Matthews, who is a member of the CPF in this community of Pinetown. Mr. Andreas, thank you very much for your time. Why are police not winning this war against crime?
Well, the police have got massive challenges in the Pinetown area. We've got an infrastructure problem where, there's not enough vehicles at times to address the complaints of the community. The community are making arrests, the security companies are making the arrests, and everybody's participating at the right time, but the volume of crime at this stage is affecting us because of the fact that the vehicles might not be available, or the volume of work is so intense that the police officers are losing the effect of crime and the wave that it is causing throughout the city on a daily basis.
Do you feel that sometimes police can actually play a role in perpetuating the issue of crime in this community?
Well, we've got a whole lot of issues with regards to what is actually perpetuating crime in the Pinetown area. We've got residents who want to partner with the SAPS. The SAPS hands are usually tied when it comes to community policing. And one of the challenges that we do find is we do have a lot of apathetic residents who just feel that they don't need to be part of the solution. And the police in Pinetown are doing their utmost to try and get people to come to CPF meetings, and that is very poorly attended. If you look at the stats where attendance is taking place, then you'll find that this is happening quite a lot in the community.
Thank you very much for your time. Andreas Matthews, who's a member of the CPF here in Pinetown, saying that the community has to play a meaningful role in fighting the scourge of crime. It's back to you in Johannesburg, Bongani.
Thank you, Simpiwe. Yes, indeed, it's easy enough to blame the police. We've certainly heard about a lack of resources, not only from that interview, but also from our social media posts. That does seem to be a picture. Police are overwhelmed, but you, the citizen, have a voice in this issue as well. Now, if you want to be part of the People's View in our next show, all you need to do is send us an email to dg25@sabc.co.za. At the end of the show, I will throw forward to tomorrow's topic. Now, if you are Zingisile George Mbatu, the son of Willem Ntinti and Lina Nosana, well, stay tuned because your story is coming up next.
It was a journey of self-discovery.
It started as a call to adventure.
Some of us leaped at it, some of us refused the call.
But inspired by our ideas to make Mzansi better,
we all crossed the first threshold.
The final 6.
The road of trials began. Not only were our ideas tested, we were tested.
But on a mountain of truth, you never climb in vain. We embraced our shadows and conquered our fears.
It was no longer about us. We discovered our essence in selfless service. From the judges, I learned an unwavering steadiness of purpose. Look to nothing else, not even for a moment,
except to reason.
Leadership is not about the next election, but about the next generation.
From one day leader,
we learned
and we became.
One Day Leader, Thursdays at 9 p.m. on SABC 1, Mzansi for sure.
In a UN report, scientists say climate change is getting worse.
1/3 of our food sources for the population come out of the ocean.
We spoke to people who have been directly affected.
We have lost a lot of cattle. Gemsbokvlakte, Tosca, Gebied and Jakkalskop. Everywhere you will see there's animals dying.
I've lost 2 of my cattle this January.
Africa's demand for clean drinking water is rising.
Drinking water is a top priority.
The next day when the water comes back, it's dirty.
I have implemented a level 5 water restriction, effective immediately.
Environmentalists seek solution to preserve the planet.
This is Cape Kirpa, which is also one of the endemic species that is only found within the Western Cape, so it occurs nowhere else in the world except in our water systems.
Welcome back. As you've seen already through the Democracy Gauge, SABC News profiles South Africans across the country. And today I'm very pleased to say we're going all the way to the North Province to look at the story of a former police officer. So here we go. This is, by the way, our interactive mapper. You can see this on our website. This is sabcnews.com for elections. You'll find all the information for the Democracy Gauge. These are our previous stories. And on this map, you can see exactly where we're going today. We're going to the Northwest Province to look at the story of Zingisile Mbatu, who, as I say, is a former Northwest police officer who was suspended from duty in 1991. He says he's still struggling to get his pension all these years later. So what has democracy delivered or not for him?
Bondade na lebitso la ka ke Zingisile George Mbatu. Ke ngwana wa ntate Vele Mtinti Mbatu le mme Lena Nosana Mbatu. Re hla re le Freestata, Kronstata. Ha ke le kana le secondary school ke ntse form 1, form 2, form 3. Ka ba drop out ya Katswa, ka tla di mining ka 1974 Harties. Mo sebetseng 74, 75, 76 ke ha ke tswa ke ya holo ba le ponisa Stelfontein. Sponiseng ke sebeditse 1976 ke le recruit student ya re ka December ya 1977 ke re ya college in Hammanskraal. Ke tswile ka 1978 Hammanskraal pass out a se tlo maponisa no station se ka dileng go sona go batla mosebetsi sa Stelfontein police station. Salika suspendiwa ka 1991 go bo approve re ke tla tshwantse ke thole chelete pampiri di signiwa chelete eo pampiri tseo ha tsoka di romelwa Pretoria for payment. Sa bobedi maponisa ha so ntshwarele hearing e departmental eo ene ba bua ba suspenditse yona while ke dirile ke kentse bothata bo ba bua ba re ke bentse go mosebetsing ba go tshwara hotwe ke la ka tshwara red handed ka gold molao o re tshwanetse ke suspendiwe ka nako e itseng ke tshwarele departmental trial ha ke so tshwarele departmental trial ke sa emetse ke sampe ke sa fumane pay yaka e dumeletswe e sainiwe ha ke so e fumane e kotsi le ho feta ha ke bua tje file ya ke ke mo bontsha ka yona ha e fumanele fatse le lohle ke apartheid ntsutlile ke ya le ke swa ke batho ba rena ba democracy ba ditulo tsa sponesa batho ba batso e se makgowa ha ke na mosadi o ntlhadile ha ke na dijana mo ke dulang teng family ya ka e tlhakatlhakane e o sa botlhoko le go feta ha ke apata bana baka ba foa ba patwa ke nna ba patwa ke di family le ntate wa ka ha patwa ke nna o patwe ke family tsaka ke kana go ke na le mosebetsi tsantsi ke funa tšhelete ya ka ha ke krele letho ke dutse fela ke phutile matsogo ya ka le mpona mo ke dutse nteng ba se mo haka ntlele ke ifue ke batho fela ba tlodile tlweng ke bona le ya a se mohaka ntate tokoloho ya rona kapa puso ya rona ya bongata ha ona mo ya nteng ka sena sebaka hobane di baetapele ba rona bana nnete ba rata fela batho ka nako tsa dile ka dikgetho ha ba se ba di officing hona le melao e metle because South Africa it's a very very smart and beautiful constitution but batho ba rona ba puso ba itshebetse fela bona le balapa a bona.
So where were you on the 14th of March in 1994? Today, we look at events that were, of course, leading up to that historic election on the 27th of April. 25 years ago, we've gone back to our archives here at the SABC, which are extensive, and we found that on this day, Radio Vryheid broadcast emphasizing that it would promote the culture of Afrikaans and to ensure that it would have a place in South Africa.
Ik is van die transporte bolen, ik de echte oud-Tagaar. Ik is bezig om een vrouw te zoeken, ik speel op mijn gitaar. Ik heb een mooie meid gezien, Susanna is haar naam. En ik ben
The Voice of Radio Vryheid. The beginning of what is to be an independent network for the Free State and Northern Cape, which will eventually reach listeners within a 700-kilometer radius.
The aim is to promote the culture of the Afrikaner, to promote the language of the Afrikaner, everything as far as Afrikaner's culture is concerned, to promote that, to ensure that the Afrikaner has a place in the new South Africa.
The SABC tower in Bloemfontein is within sight of the Radio Vryheid transmitter, which is being guarded by armed members of the Afrikaner Weerstandsbewegings Wenkommando.
We would like to go into the air with a license. We tried everything with all the state departments, but they send us from the one to the other. At the end, the Minister of Home Affairs told us that he's not prepared to even consider the license. He did not refuse a license, he did not consider it, because there's a new authority that's taking place, and he says he's not going to consider it before this authority is in the seat, is taken power.
Yeah, we forget just how quickly things changed in South Africa. All right, let's take a look now at the result from today's poll. Remember, we've been asking the question, do police respond effectively to crime? Those are the results coming up on your screen. A whopping 77% of you obviously saying no, maybe 14% with the yeses still stuck at 9 or thereabouts. So the sentiment is very much not in favor of the police being effective. All right, we thank you for taking the time to watch and to participate in our show. On tomorrow's show, we're asking this question: do comedians and cartoonists take it too far? That means our poll is now open. You can choose from our standard 3 colors. Green is for yes, yellow is maybe, and of course red is no. And you can interact with our poll on sabcnews.com. You'll answer our question on Facebook and Twitter, remembering to use the hashtag SABCDG25 and SABC News. You can also view, as I showed you a little earlier, all the profiles featured on the show this past week and in previous episodes. You can do that at sabcnews.com. From me, Bongani Bingwa, thank you for watching. Good night.
Tandega, her weird family